Silverware was the only sound in the room until my sister decided to ruin the morning. "Mom, Dad," she said between bites of avocado toast, "I need more space for my clothes. I've been thinking Ava should move out. I could turn her room into a walk-in closet." Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation? Be honest, tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. The air went still. I froze mid-sip, the edge of my mug pressed against my lips. Surely they'd laugh it off, tell her to stop being ridiculous. But they didn't. Dad sighed, flipping a page of his newspaper. "That's not a bad idea, actually. She's 23 now. About time she learns to live on her own." Mom added gently, "You've been staying here for months, sweetheart. Maybe it's time you got a place closer to work." I set my cup down slowly, the ceramic clicking against the table louder than it should have. "You're serious?" My sister, Chloe, smirked. "Don't take it personal, sis. I just need more space. You understand, right?" The nerve in my jaw twitched. "More space for what, Chloe? Your ego or your designer bags?" She rolled her eyes. "Whatever helps you sleep at night." I looked at my parents, searching for a trace of discomfort. Anything, but they just avoided my eyes. Dad folded his newspaper neatly. "Let's not make a scene, Ava. It's just time to move forward." That was it. No defense. No empathy. Just dismissal. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice steady. "Fine," I said. "If that's what you want." Mom tried to backpedal. "Honey, we didn't mean..." But I cut her off. "No. It's okay. You've made your choice." I pushed my chair back and stood up. The legs screeched against the floor, slicing through the silence. Chloe gave me a smug little smile. "Guess I'll start measuring the room." I met her gaze, calm, deliberate. "Measure fast," I said, "because you'll want to remember the space you lost when life flips on you." She blinked, confused, but I didn't give her time to reply. I turned, grabbed my jacket, and walked out. Hours later, as the sun dipped low, a sleek black sedan glided up the driveway. The same parents who had told me to move out peeked through the window as a uniformed driver stepped out. "Miss Reed?" he asked, holding open the door. "We're ready." I didn't look back. I simply got in. As the car rolled away, I glanced through the tinted glass one last time. Chloe stood on the porch, her mouth hanging open, my parents behind her in stunned silence. 10 minutes later, the gates of a sprawling estate swung open, white columns glowing under the sunset. The driver parked, then turned to me with a polite smile. "Welcome home, Miss Reed." I exhaled softly, stepping out onto marble steps that felt nothing like exile. No, this wasn't me moving out. This was me finally stepping into the life they said I'd never have. The following morning, sunlight poured through tall glass windows that stretched from floor to ceiling. The place was quiet, too quiet. I could hear my own heartbeat echo off the marble floors. I stood there in disbelief, barefoot, coffee mug in hand, staring out at the infinity pool that mirrored the golden sky. The mansion felt unreal, like something out of someone else's life. But it wasn't a fantasy, it was my grandmother's. When she passed away 6 months earlier, I'd been the only one who visited her in her final weeks. Chloe had been too busy with her influencer events, and my parents only came for the pictures. Grandma never said much then, but I remember the last thing she told me. "People will only respect you when they can't take from you anymore." Now, standing here in her house, my house, I finally understood what she meant. A knock came at the door. A man in a dark suit stood outside, holding a briefcase. "Miss Reed," he said politely. "I'm Mr. Green, your grandmother's estate attorney. I trust you're settling in well." "I am," I said, stepping aside. "Please come in." He walked through the grand foyer, eyes scanning the portraits lining the walls. "Your grandmother left everything to you," he began. "The property, the accounts, and her shares in Reed Holdings." That last part hit like thunder. "Wait, Reed Holdings? My father's company." He nodded. "Technically, it was hers. She just allowed your father to manage it." but upon her passing, full ownership transferred to you. I blinked. So, I own the company? You own 51% of it, yes. Meaning, you're now the majority shareholder. The coffee nearly slipped from my hand. The same company my father once said I was too emotional to work for now belonged to me. Mr. Green opened his briefcase and handed me a folder. You'll need to sign here to make it official. Once you do, you'll have full voting rights and control over all operations. I signed without hesitation. Done. He smiled faintly. I imagine this news will surprise your family. Oh, I said, lips curling into a quiet smile. I'm counting on it. By the time I returned to my old neighborhood that afternoon, their house looked smaller than I remembered. It wasn't the size that changed, it was the way I saw it now. Chloe's laughter echoed from the porch before she spotted me. Her face twisted in surprise. Ava, you came back already? Couldn't handle living alone. I ignored her sarcasm and walked right up to her. Actually, I said calmly, I came to return something. Mom appeared behind her, wiping her hands with a towel. Sweetheart, you shouldn't just show up. Your father's on a call. Perfect, I said. He'll want to hear this. Chloe crossed her arms, amused. Let me guess, you got a fancy apartment? Maybe a shared one-bedroom in the city. I smiled. Not exactly. Before I could speak, a black SUV rolled up the driveway. Mr. Green stepped out, adjusting his tie. My father followed him out moments later, confusion written all over his face. What is this? He asked. Mr. Green handed him an envelope. Mr. Reed, as per the transfer executed this morning, your daughter Ava is now the controlling shareholder of Reed Holdings. The color drained from his face. That's impossible. Those shares belong to me. Correction, said Mr. Green. They belong to your late mother. Mom gasped. Will said she wanted the assets divided. Actually, I interrupted. That's what you told everyone. The truth is, she left it all to me. Chloe's smirk disappeared instantly. You're lying. I turned to her, eyes steady. Check the public record tomorrow morning. You'll see who signs your father's paycheck now. For a long moment, no one spoke. The only sound was the faint hum of the SUV's engine. Dad's voice trembled. Ava, why didn't you tell us? I met his gaze. Would you have cared? He didn't answer. I took a step closer, voice calm but sharp. You told me to move out. You treated me like clutter in my own home. Now, you'll be reporting to the person you dismissed at breakfast. Chloe's jaw clenched. You can't just humiliate us like this. I smiled faintly. Oh, I'm not humiliating anyone. I'm just returning the favor. Mom tried to step forward, her voice cracking. Ava, please don't do this. We're still family. Family? I laughed softly. Family doesn't pick one child's comfort over another's dignity. I handed Dad a card. Board meeting. Tomorrow morning. I'll expect you there, on time. And before any of them could speak, I turned and walked toward the car waiting for me. As the driver opened the door, Chloe shouted, You'll regret this. I looked back over my shoulder and said quietly, The only regret I ever had was believing any of you cared. The door closed, sealing their shocked faces behind tinted glass. As the car pulled away, I saw the reflection of their house fade into the distance. The same house that once made me feel small now looked like nothing more than a cage I'd outgrown. For the first time, I didn't feel hurt. I felt powerful. Because this wasn't revenge for what they did that morning. This was the consequence of every time they told me I wasn't enough. And tomorrow, when they walked into that boardroom and saw me at the head of the table, they'd finally understand. I hadn't just moved out. I'd moved above. The next morning, the city skyline glimmered like glass as I walked into the Reed Holdings Tower, the same building where my father had once told me, You don't belong in business meetings. Leave this to the professionals. Funny how quickly things change. I stepped out of the elevator, heels clicking against the polished floor. The secretary froze when she saw me. Miss Reed, she stammered. You're early. I prefer to set the tone, I replied, walking past her. They can follow. The boardroom doors loomed ahead, tall, glass, and intimidating. Inside, executives whispered, checking their watches, clearly uncomfortable. My father sat at the head of the table, fingers laced tightly, trying to appear composed. My mother sat beside him, pretending to be calm, but her eyes darted nervously toward me. And Chloe, in a white blazer far too formal for her usual influencer routine, was seated in the back like she belonged there. I stopped at the doorway, taking it all in. The shock, the confusion, the tension simmering under the hum of the air conditioning. "Good morning," I said evenly, walking to the head of the table. "Let's begin." My father stood, his chair scraping the floor. "Ava, this is inappropriate. You can't just walk in here and—" "I can," I interrupted. "And I will. You're sitting in my seat." He froze. The room went silent. The executives glanced at each other, unsure what to do. Slowly, my father sank back down. I set my folder on the table and continued. "As of yesterday, I'm the majority shareholder of this company, meaning every decision from now on goes through me." Chloe crossed her arms. "You don't even know how to run a company." I turned to her, voice calm but sharp. "I don't need to run it to control it. That's what professionals are for. I just decide who stays and who doesn't." Her face lost color. My father cleared his throat. "You don't understand the complexities here. This isn't personal, it's business." "Then let's keep it that way," I said coldly. "You've been losing contracts for months. Investors are nervous. Morale is down. So here's what's going to happen. Starting today, the leadership team will be reorganized." Mom's voice cracked. "Ava, please, your father is stepping down," I said flatly. Gasps rippled through the room. My father's jaw tightened. "You're making a mistake. I built this company." "No," I replied quietly, Grandma did. "You just took credit for her work." The words hit him like a slap. His eyes darkened, but I didn't flinch. "Effective immediately," I continued. "You'll serve as a consultant, part-time. I'll have HR draft the new contract." One of the executives, an older man named Mr. Dawson, spoke hesitantly. "Miss Reed, with all due respect, are you sure this is wise?" I turned to him. "Mr. Dawson, you've worked here for 30 years, correct?" "Yes." "Then you've seen what happens when people in power stop listening. I'm not here to burn down the company. I'm here to rebuild it." He nodded slowly, glancing at my father. "Understood." Chloe slammed her hands on the table. "This is insane. You're destroying Dad's legacy for some petty grudge." I faced her squarely. "Petty?" My voice hardened. "You laughed when they told me to move out. You wanted my room for your closet. That wasn't petty, it was cruel. And now you're learning what cruelty costs." Her lips trembled, but she didn't speak. I took a deep breath, then looked around the table. "I'm not here for revenge. I'm here for justice. This company has spent too long rewarding arrogance and ignoring loyalty. That ends today." The silence that followed was electric. My father finally looked up at me, eyes weary but full of something I hadn't seen in years, respect, or maybe fear. "You sound just like her," he said softly. "Like who?" "Your grandmother." That almost broke me. Almost. But I couldn't afford to soften. "Not now." "Meeting adjourned," I said. "I'll expect progress reports by next week." As I turned to leave, Chloe muttered, "You'll never be happy, you know that? All this power. It won't fill the hole we left." I stopped in the doorway and looked back. "I'm not trying to fill it," I said quietly. "I'm just making sure no one ever digs it again." Outside, as the glass doors closed behind me, I finally let the air leave my lungs. The sun hit the side of the building, glinting off the silver letters that spelled Reed Holdings. For years, that name had made me feel small. Now it was mine. Reporters were already waiting by the curb. "Miss Reed, is it true you took over your father's company?" one asked. I smiled faintly. "No," I said. "I took back what was already mine." As I got into the car, the driver asked, "Back home, Miss Reed?" I glanced at my reflection in the window. Calm, composed, unrecognizable from the girl who once sat silently at her family's breakfast table. "No," I said with a small smile. "Not home. To headquarters." The city blurred by outside, the same streets I'd once walked through feeling invisible. But not anymore. Now, every mile forward was a reminder. I didn't just leave the house that morning because they told me to move out. I left because I was meant to outgrow it. And for the first time, I didn't feel like the daughter they discarded. I felt like the woman who finally turned the tables. 2 weeks passed before I heard from them again. By then, the company had begun to stabilize. New contracts were signed, morale was high, and the press labeled me the quiet heir who reshaped Reed Holdings. Every time I saw that headline, I felt a bittersweet pride. I hadn't done it to prove myself to anyone, but it did feel good to know that the girl they called unmotivated had rebuilt what they nearly destroyed. That afternoon, as I reviewed proposals in my office, the receptionist buzzed. "Miss Reed, your family is here." I closed the folder slowly. "Let them in." The door opened. My father entered first, slower than usual, his posture no longer commanding. My mother followed, holding her purse tightly, eyes red from crying. Chloe came last, her confidence gone, her designer clothes looking out of place against the tension in the room. No one spoke for a long moment. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Finally, Dad said softly, "We didn't come for the company." "I didn't think you did," I said evenly. "What do you want?" He sighed, voice trembling. "To apologize. We treated you terribly, Ava. Your mother and I always failed you." Mom wiped her tears. "We were proud of you, just wrong in how we showed it. You always reminded me of your grandmother, strong-willed, quiet. I didn't understand that strength back then." I leaned back in my chair, studying them. For years, I'd imagined this moment, how I'd yell, how I'd finally make them feel what I felt. But instead, all I felt was calm. "I'm not angry anymore," I said. "I just learned my worth the hard way." Chloe stepped forward, voice cracking. "Ava, I was awful to you. I know. I said things I can't take back. I thought life was about attention, not integrity." She swallowed hard. "I just want you to know I'm sorry." For the first time in years, she sounded sincere. I stood, walked to the window, and looked out at the city. Glass towers, sunlight streaking across the skyline. "You all thought throwing me out would break me, but it didn't. It built me." No one interrupted. I turned back toward them. Grandma didn't give me all this because she wanted revenge. She did it because she believed in the kind of person who keeps going, even when no one claps for them. That's who I became. Dad lowered his head. "We don't expect forgiveness." "Good," I said quietly, "because forgiveness isn't something I hand out. It's something people earn." Mom's voice was barely a whisper. "Can we at least see you sometimes? Not as the CEO. Just as family?" I studied her face, older now, gentler, maybe finally honest. "Maybe," I said, "but it'll take time." She nodded, tears falling silently. Chloe stepped forward, reaching out slightly, but she didn't touch me. "If you ever need me," I smiled faintly. "I don't, but thank you." They left quietly. When the door shut, I walked back to my desk and looked at the framed photo of Grandma. Her soft eyes seemed to hold a knowing smile. "Guess you were right again," I whispered. "People do respect you more when they can't take from you anymore." Outside, the sun dipped behind the skyline, painting the windows gold. The city looked alive, like 1,000 stories of people losing, breaking, and rebuilding again. I stood there, watching the light fade, and for the first time, I didn't think about revenge or loss, or the family that once underestimated me. I thought about peace. I wasn't the girl they pushed out at breakfast anymore. I was the woman who built her own table. And as the nightlights flickered across the glass tower that bore my family's name, I whispered quietly,